Let me know if you. Okay, so it works. We're on. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Long time no see. How's it going?
Well, it's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's really good here in London. As per typical British style, I'll probably kick off by saying the weather's really bad, but then it rains a lot in England, and
Oh, it's been
we've
rainy?
had
Lucky
yeah,
you.
it's been like 2 weeks like now.
Oh,
So
lucky
every morning I
you.
go into seriously, every time I go into work, it's like Groundhog Day. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
but I think at this
It,
point, I prefer that over all the snow we've been getting and the minus 35 Celsius weather we've been getting
see,
at night. So,
I would love it. I'd love some snow, but I think I guess where you are, you're probably a bit better suited for snow. The thing is, in this country, you only need a few tree leaves to fall onto a railway track, and it
mm,
can stop it. It can stop an entire network of trains in this
oh gosh.
country. We don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
we don't have the infrastructure for any kind of inclement weather. It just doesn't work. So, but
Yeah.
rain is the staple at the moment here in London and in the UK, and the forecast is for the next 10 days. It's a very British intro. It's lovely to see you, by the way.
It's lovely to see you too. All right. Well, do you want me to just jump in with the questions? The burning
Yeah,
questions on BFS?
you know what? I think that would be absolutely amazing. I mean, yeah, fire away, please do.
I asked a few of my friends who are also heavy Twitchers like we are. So I have some of their questions as well. If you're not
Oh wow,
comfortable with something, let me know, eh?
that's
If you
absolutely no. There'll
okay.
be nothing. I mean, for me, very little is off limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fire away. That's amazing.
So my first question is, how would you say your mental or physical health was before even starting BFS? Was it like, would you say you were someone who was anxious all the time? Would you say you were super zen? Would you say you had great physical health? Like, what was the run up to you starting BFS?
That's a really good question. I'm going to introduce myself very briefly because
Yeah.
obviously there'll be some people who don't know me, but my name's David. I do have a YouTube channel as well, which I've kind of, it's just in sabbatical really because I've been documenting my BFS now for about 15 years. In fact, it is 15 years this month actually, that I've had BFS. So,
Wow.
so in answer to your question, I'd always had a very long standing history of having quite chronic health anxiety.
Okay.
So, so prior to the onset of my twitching, there were two things that I can recall quite distinctly. First of all, I was going through a very bad patch of health anxiety, and I kind of got to the point where almost every disease or ailment that was serious in my mind I had, and the doctors kind of were in despair really. I'd been through various medications, different stuff. So that was the first thing. So mentally I was probably in a very sort of health anxious kind of place, and that was kind of a standard uh, thing anyway. But also at the time, I was kind of, it was very close to the timing of my daughter being born. And I
Mhm.
remember I found a YouTube video of me. I had this other channel and I was documenting just things like me cycling because I was trying to, really get into my fitness. And I remember on a YouTube video saying, and I worked it out, I pieced it together. It was like 2 weeks before I'd actually started twitching. And I said, oh, I feel really anxious and stressed at the moment. I'm not feeling myself. So I remember very, very clearly that I was not in a good place mentally. And I think that was certainly the precursor to my twitching. And I think the health anxiety, and on top of that, a very stressful period in my life, a personal period in my life as well, because I was separated and there was a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah,
Okay.
very stressed. very stressed.
Okay, so the period prior was very intense from what I'm
Yeah,
gathering.
it was. And to be honest, sadly, most of my 20s and then into my 30s were riddled with health anxiety.
Okay.
And so this whole thing had been building up like a crescendo for a very long time.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. So it's been like forever. The anxiety has been there, like basically that
Yeah,
was your
absolutely.
go-to. Yeah, okay. Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
I tend to see that a lot of people who have BFS are in that exact state of mind. They've been having chronic anxiety for the longest time, and then they've had like this thing that just sets them off. And a lot of them that I've spoken to also were training a lot. So I think it's like a mixture of the chronic anxiety for years and years and years, and then something that just overwhelms your body, and then it just
Yep.
hell like hell breaks loose.
I think that
So
that absolutely hits the nail on the head.
yeah,
And that's exactly what the last neurologist that I saw said to me. And so
uh,
your description was almost word for word what he said actually to me.
because it was the exact same thing for me. I have always been anxious my entire life. I've always had like generalized anxiety. I've had OCD on, let's just say, health anxiety, but also for like other
Yeah.
stuff like your typical OCD, contamination OCD, some like rituals, whatnot. So I've always had those. So I'd say I'd had chronic anxiety my entire life. I was always really high strung. And then I'd say maybe 6 months before I started twitching, I got really bad news at work. My contract wasn't going to be renewed. And that caused a lot of anxiety. And I was working 50-hour weeks and I was training like crazy. And then just boom, my body gave up. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Overload. I
Yeah.
started from head to toe within 2 months. Like it started with my eyes and then just went down to my body.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I could see that timeline that's really similar to yours and a lot of people too. So
It's
yeah,
very
makes
interesting
sense.
as well because I don't know if this is a question that will come up later, but obviously it started in my calves. And then within so you just said that yours started with your eyes twitching. Then within 2 weeks it had gone from my calves to
All
everywhere.
over. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It
yeah,
it really ramps up quickly. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my next question. When and how did BFS start for you? So what was your symptom progression? Did you like you're twitching, you say they started in your calves. Did you have anything else like cramping? Did you have zaps? Any like how would you describe it?
Yeah. So I had sort of bilateral twitching, so it wasn't just in one, it was in both calves. But
Mhm.
I seem to remember that for about 2 or 3 days, I had kind of my calves felt very buzzy and tingly and uh, very just felt buzzy and like little crawling sort of sensations. And you know what? I didn't really give much of a thought to it. And then eventually I thought, because I was lying down, wow, so this is bugging me a little bit. So I kind of looked at my calf muscles and like they were all popping off. And I was
Yeah.
like, my God, what's going on? And like both of the, both of the calves exactly the same, doing all the normal twitching. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. But I didn't have any cramping. I didn't have anything. But like I said, the funny thing is, I think if I just hadn't have paid it any attention and just not looked, what would have happened next? Because the moment I looked at the twitching, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And of course, the first thing we do, which is probably another question, go to Google and then the landslide starts. But that was where it started off for me. Um, and I really could feel that kind of buzzing and like
Pain
crawling
also.
feelings under your skins. Yeah, it didn't hurt or anything, but it just felt odd. They both felt very odd,
Yeah.
and that was how
And
it
then did
started.
it
Yeah.
progress? Did it progress to the rest of your body?
Well, what happened was, so I got a doctor's appointment very quickly because um, obviously somebody with health anxiety already at that time. I got an appointment, and then I saw a very good doctor at my surgery who was kind of on the edge of retirement, and he sort of did all the normal sort of neurological tests on me and stuff, and there was and he was like, oh, I'm not really sure. We'll fast track you to a neurologist, this and that. And of course, I started to get a bit panicky, and I said, "Oh,
Of course.
could it be motor neuron disease?" Of course, because you type in twitching, it's the first thing, it's not
Yeah.
the first thing that comes up, but it's in the list. It's in there somewhere. And if you've got health anxiety, you'll find it and you'll see it, and then you'll decide that that's what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, oh no, I've only ever had one patient with that. And then, of course, like after that, having known the protocol of all health anxiety sufferers, of course, I kept Googling. And the more I kept Googling, the worse it got. So the anxiety then ramped up massively. And then within 2 weeks, I'd say it'd gone from my calves to everywhere, all over my
Yeah.
body. Yeah. So I remember very specifically that it went pretty much everywhere within 2 weeks, but it started specifically in both those calf muscles.
Okay. For me, it was the eyes, then the calves, and then everywhere. But I
Isn't that
had the eye
interesting?
twitch. Yeah, I had the eye twitch for probably 3 or 4 months nonstop.
Right. Yep.
And then I got one
Yep.
on my calf and I kept looking at it. And then it started popping. You know, like when you get like those popcorn twitches on your calves, they
Yep.
like pop
Yep.
everywhere every second. Went into that. And then it progressed to the whole body. And like it was
Uh, uh,
popping anywhere and everywhere at any time. It was really insane.
and isn't it interesting that as a side note, when most, when I've spoken to people in the past who are twitching, and they say, look, or not even not people who are not twitching, actually, just normal people. They,
Mhm.
yeah, oh, and my eye's been twitching, recently, and the first my always in the past before I was twitching, or if anyone, when I had an eye twitch in the past, someone go to, you know what, you're stressed. It's because you're
Yeah.
stressed. You're not getting enough sleep. It's because you're stressed. And then 2 or 3 days later, it normally goes away. And it's really interesting that we generally don't, and I've always said this, we don't pay so much attention to eye twitches, because they are always, everyone will tell you, if you go, oh, if my eyes twitch, they go, oh, it's because you're tired and stressed.
Yeah. You've
And that's true.
overdone it.
And it's true.
Yeah.
But when it's on another part of the body, we tend to give it a lot more attention, which is fascinating. So, you went in the different direction, because if it was just an eye twitch for me, I'd had eye twitches in the past, and
Oh, yeah.
they
Me too.
generally,
Me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
all have, I'm sure.
Mm.
And my partner at the moment, a couple of days ago, she was my twitching. I was like, oh, it's stress, and she's seen me twitching all over,
Yeah.
and it's gone. And it will take a few days, irritated nerve, then it just all chills out,
And
but
we
yeah,
think
so
nothing of it.
it can start anywhere. But yeah, for me, it was very specifically the calf muscles. But yeah, it spread pretty quick once I started Googling and
Were you
panicking.
freaked out by them when they were popping all over? Like, how would you react when you would start feeling them everywhere? It
Well,
used to
I
freak me out.
well, yeah, I think that I I remember filming it, like the calf muscles, and I think I was very much more specifically focused on the calves because
Yeah.
they were much more regular, like it seemed to be happening all the time, so it
Yeah.
was easy just to sit there and stare at your calf muscles doing all these weird kind of, like, it's almost, it's it's quite weird now because you can watch it and go, oh, it's quite therapeutic, actually. You're just seeing all these weird movements, you're like, this doesn't give up, it just doesn't want to stop. Where does everyone stop? And then when I started to get back twitches, and when I had the odd twitch in my tongue, that's when my anxiety would really ramp up. And
So
that
happy you said
was,
that.
yeah. So that was uh so generally, yeah, the calf muscles didn't bother me. Sometimes you get a big thump in your chest, your your
Your pet.
pectorals or your
Yeah.
shoulders, yeah, or in my arms, fingers start moving around of their own accord,
Yes,
and yeah, weird stuff. And you just, but I mean, obviously, a twitch in the tongue's going to scare you because it's a feeling that
exactly.
I saw my tongue, it practically curl round with a twitch once, and I was like, but I think at that point I was about 7 years in, and I was just like, I don't care.
Oh, yeah, I got a
Yeah,
tongue twitch within a year and a half, roughly. And I remember
yeah,
I had gotten over the worst of the anxiety about it by that time. I still didn't like twitching, but I was like, okay, I'm starting to understand this is just the new normal and it's nothing to be
yeah,
scared of. And then I
yeah,
remember I was talking with my boss and my tongue started twitching and I was like, that's it. I'm gone.
yeah,
Like the anxiety
yeah,
came back because I don't know, you've probably read the same things I have, but they always say like, oh wait, a tongue twitch is always a sign of something. Like, so
yeah.
whenever it started for me, I started freaking out because I was like, well, that's it. And then I got a follow-up EMG afterwards and it was still clear. And I was like, listen, it's just the nature of the beast, but it really takes you aback when it happens for the first time in the tongue, especially, I find. For me, that was the worst one to like
Of
live for the first
course, and
time.
of course, and look, we're always going to be scared of the unknown, and
Yeah.
I think that that's human nature, and for me, um, already being a very health anxious kind of person, and then having all these twitches and having all these EMGs and having needles in my tongue and them saying, you're fine, you don't have this, you don't have that. Um, it's quite scary. And of course it's scary because when something happens to you that the neurologists are kind of sure what it is, but they're not entirely sure what it is. And then there's a lot of speculation about what it is. And then you have people who are not in neurological fields or medical fields and just the average Joe like me and you, who may be further less down the line and just throwing out these little speculations and stuff.
Hmm.
It really muddies the waters. So twitching is very frightening, but it's actually when you learn to kind of be a bit more still with yourself and
Yeah.
take that time. And I think that comes with time and experience, and you have to go through that fear to get over the other side. But yeah, I mean, look, it's all weird, isn't it? So like, it's
It
gonna
is
be a
a
little
weird,
bit.
it's
Yeah,
it's
it's gonna.
off-putting when it happens. It's just strange.
Yeah, of
A hundred
course, and
percent.
it can be unsettling. If you have a twitch in your tongue or a zap in your tongue, you get these little
Yeah, I've had
zaps,
that
don't you,
too.
as well sometimes, and that's common. Um, I had this twitch in my eyebrow when I was working at a school, and like
Mhm.
my eyebrow just kept moving like this, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to speak to teachers, yeah." And my eyebrow just kept
Yeah.
like going, and I was like, "Oh God!" And it was like not fear, but there's the social because I did like sometimes I can smile still and I can cramp up in the side of my face, and my
Me
face can
too.
kind of like yeah, you get cramp. I get sometimes cramps around the face and the jaw. Probably all the talking I do, but I was just thinking I've got to talk to these people, and my eyebrows are twitching and doing all this, and so there's a social element to it that it made me a lot more self conscious as well.
Yeah,
So there's
because
a
you
lot of
can't hide
things that
it, right? It's it's
no,
right there. Like it
no.
happened to me once. I'll always remember I was with my sister at Costco, and then I started getting a twitch in my cheek, and it's like those big ones, right? It's really moving, and like your
Yeah,
entire eye's going at it. And my sister's
yeah,
like, "What's wrong with your face?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm really tired." It's like
yeah,
people notice when it's in the face if they're
yeah,
bad. But yeah, the other ones you
yeah.
could kind of hide them under your clothing, which is one of my
Yes.
questions because a lot of people have asked me, have you ever seen your twitches through your clothes? Like if you get a big thumper, can you see it through your
Oh,
clothes?
that's a good question. Um, I probably I can't really recall off the top of my head if I have actually seen something through my clothes, but I mean, I should think. I generally tend to wear t-shirts a lot, so
Mm,
if I see a twitch, it's usually on my skin. But I
Yeah,
think I might have had the odd pectoral twitch in the past,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I've kind of seen it go from there. So, the range of twitching that I can get and still can get, it does vary because it can go from proper thumping, full on muscular contractions where you're like,
yeah,
bang, and it's literally
yeah,
squeezing, and you're like, wow,
yeah,
to
yeah,
like obviously a slightly, lesser twitch that might see a bit of flickering in between your uh, there, in your thumb and the forefinger. So, you
yeah,
might see the odd twitch there, but obviously it's never going to be quite as big as, say, a bigger muscle like your pectoral. But for
your
sure,
quad.
if I put my hands on my, quad muscles and left them there, I would feel a twitch probably in about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
So I can tell that they're still going because I can literally, put my hands on my legs, and I'll feel twitching. It'll be a little mild thump, a
yeah,
small thump, but you can
yeah,
feel it with your hand. So it still
yeah, yeah.
goes, and it's in the quads, and they're big muscles. They're big muscles, and they're still there, doing
When they
quite
decide
well.
to start, you can't really ignore them. They just, those big muscles, when they start thumping, you can't. It's like for me, the calves, if I'm going about my day, I won't really feel them. But if I'm like
Of
lying down or
course,
relaxing, then I do feel them, right?
of
Like, let's say I
course,
have
of
a big
course.
thumper, like in my bicep or something.
Yeah,
There's no way I'm not feeling that one. But there's a
yeah,
lot of people who told me they were scared because they're like, oh my God, I could see it through my clothes. Is it dangerous? And I'm like, well, if it's a big muscle, you'll see it. If you're wearing like
yeah,
clothes over it and your muscles going like this, your clothes on top are going to go like this. It's just part of the
yeah.
thing, you know?
I don't. Yeah, it certainly isn't anything more to worry about.
No.
The size of the twitch or the
Yeah.
thump. I mean, it's and I'm very, very mindful to always stick to the same script when I'm talking on YouTube or whatever. That the important factor is that people will always ask you questions, especially if they're a little bit newer to twitching and they want to get some advice or they want to feel
Hmm.
better. And people like myself and you as well probably will be getting questions or do get questions, have had questions. And I think you can take people so far. But ultimately, the most important thing that I always impart onto people is that you've got to listen to the professionals, because if you don't, there's nowhere to go. That is literally the most, the holy Bible, that if you cannot trust a professional with your health. And I know, there'll be some people that, they might be more holistic in their approaches and whatever. But when we're talking about the nitty gritty of like serious illnesses,
Yeah.
they're going to know. And it's like my neurologist, one of five, the last one said, we've diagnosed you by the time you sat down. We don't even need to do the test if we were worried. So, so important to speak to the professionals. But yeah,
Yeah.
going back
I'm,
to the
I'm
clothes, sometimes I
I'm
can
pretty
see
sure
them.
the people who walk into their doctor's office with what we're afraid of, they walk in looking really different than we do, and they have different symptoms than we do most of the time, you know? They could tell, just even with that basic neurological exam they do when you're in the office, they could tell if something's wrong, like severely wrong, just there. But I think us with health anxiety, it's like we're never satisfied, right? We want that extra confirmation, that extra reassurance, which is self-limiting. But yeah,
It really is, and what what you were saying, and you know it's always a very tough subject to approach, but I'm never afraid to cross that bridge. That obviously, I would say probably 99.9% of people who have BFS are concerned that their twitches are a neurological degrading disease. Most likely they're probably thinking ALS, or some kind of other neurological degrading disease. And
hmm.
what I was just saying about
Sorry.
the neurologist who saw me, and is absolutely accurate. And this may I think this is good, for your channel because I know some people do want reassurance. But
Hmm.
sadly, I actually did have a friend who did pass away from ALS, and we were in contact quite a bit. And she
Whoa.
did not have any twitches at the beginning. It almost always presents with weakness, and sadly,
Yeah.
that was the first symptom. And unfortunately, yeah, there's no kind of relenting really, and it is very apparent from the get go.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so we're very anxious, and we go, "Oh God, twitching must be something very degrading." And there'll always be somebody on the internet that goes, this person died of this because they had twitches," and it's like, well, some people, die of cancer, but they had 5 tests and it never found anything. There's always going to be an anomaly, but generally, from my understanding and having spoken to so many neurologists, and sadly, a friend Laura who passed away from
Mhm.
ALS, and fought till the end, and we were in contact until probably about 2 weeks before she passed. It's not how it goes. The twitching is very much a symptom of anxiety, and always get yourself checked out, of course. It
Yes,
goes
get that
without
initial
saying,
reassurance, but then
but
you need to move on, you
yeah,
know?
that's the hard part. The hard part is letting go once you've had
And
that
if I may
diagnosis,
ask,
really.
first off, I'm really sorry for your friend who passed away. Were
Thank you.
you
Yeah.
already twitching by that point, or did that happen before you started BFS?
Oh, so no, Laura. So she only passed away about a year ago.
Oh,
So I
okay, okay.
was yeah. She was just a friend on Instagram. Uh, she never actually got the chance to come into the coffee shop. Um,
Mm,
that I work in, and her husband was, uh, had become her full time carer with the cats.
yeah,
So actually, her journey through obviously a horrendous illness that strips you of your dignity and ultimately your life, was something that I deeply respected the fact that she was keen to talk with me, and I
yeah.
didn't ask questions out of morbid curiosity. I always asked her, "How are you doing? How are you doing? How's this doing? What's happening?" And I was very mindful to not ask too much. And the one question I did ask about twitching was, like I say, very irrelevant, sort of in the end, really. But yeah, that
Mhm.
was that was only about a year ago, so I was well into the, obviously not struggling with anxiety, certainly like I was at the beginning of my
Oh, okay, okay.
BFS journey. So for
So
me
it
now,
didn't set your
uh,
anxiety off or anything at
no,
that point.
no. If
Okay.
anything, it was reassuring, but in the kindest way I can put it, it was kind of
Yeah.
reassuring, but also a tragedy for her and obviously her lovely husband Terry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's very difficult. It's very
Hmm.
difficult sometimes to accept, the diagnosis that we're given, and we're often at a loss to believe it, which is the hardest part in my experience.
It was, and I think it is for a lot of us too, but I think that's the nature of our, OCD type brain. We're just very hard to convince otherwise. So I think it kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately.
I I think so, and I think um, I was thinking about this the other day, and obviously I had health anxiety. Maybe this is a question that might be pertinent to you, or it may be, you may not want to answer it. But I was, when I was about 16, 17, I was getting into music and playing, rock and roll and stuff, and we were getting into smoking our weed, our marijuana, and we did that, my friends and I, we did that quite a lot, and I found that really never worked for me. It kind of exacerbated my anxiety and made it worse and worse. And it was funny actually, because it was only when I was about 30 that I just never touched it again, and was like, it it this is making me anxious. Why am I, it wasn't a very regular thing at that point. When you're young, you're just like, yeah, man, I'm really cool. Uh, but I read some studies or some journals saying that the brain doesn't fully develop till you're 21. So if you're smoking the weed, the ganja, before
Ganja.
then, yeah, it can bring on things like psychosis and
Yeah.
mental illness. So
Mhm.
I do wonder if that ever had a part to play in the start of my health anxiety, because that started when I was 2021, which is a crazy age to be getting anxious about your health. Particularly I didn't have any
100%.
didn't have
Yeah.
mobile phones or stuff to Google at. I was literally going to the library to look at symptoms and seeing if I had like a brain tumor or something. It was
Now
ridiculous.
that's commitment.
That was
Going
a
to the
real
library.
commitment. Yeah, I tell you something. Yeah, I know. What a commitment to the health anxiety cause. You guys had it lucky.
Yeah, we
You've
just
got
had
family.
that.
Do you know how easily health anxiety would be lessened? I'm sure if we didn't have access to what mobile phones,
Yeah,
cell
yeah.
phones and computers and just this bombardment of info on the
Oh, yeah.
internet.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I to come back to the whole smoking weed thing. As a teen, I tried it once and it made me so anxious, but by that point, I had already had anxiety problems. So
Right.
I don't think it caused it for me. Was it necessarily health anxiety at that point? No, that came about a bit later too. I'd say in like mid-teens to late teens. But I did drink a lot of alcohol when I was in my teens. So I don't know if that worsened me. Well, it probably did. It does it for sure did damage to my brain at some point. So it probably
Right.
worsened my anxiety. For sure didn't help. So I think any substance will make it
Yeah,
worse.
I was never a drinker. I mean, this is my first alcoholic drink of the week, and it's a bit of gin and tonic. So I might have a drink once a week. And I was never much of a big drinker really.
Mm.
So I'm very mindful to say, I don't think that alcohol particularly contributed to any um,
Yeah.
sort of mental irregularities, but
Mhm.
I do think probably smoking weed didn't help, and um,
Yeah.
having a very fast-paced life. But you can go, you can root really deep into these causes, and you go and see a psychiatrist, and the first question they'll always ask is, did you have a good, did you have a happy childhood? Tell me about your childhood. And ultimately, I do think that most psychologists or psychiatrists will glean quite a lot about you from your childhood. I came from quite a noisy background childhood. Mum and dad were divorced, lived in an Italian household, very noisy, shouting, very intense. And I think, everyone sort of living off their nerves. So I wouldn't be surprised if that might have been a contributory factor. And maybe some of it's even hereditary. I'm sure my mum and my dad probably have suffered health anxiety. I do remember my dad telling me a few stories about reading books and then thinking he had a disease, and then it was like, and I was like, oh
Oh,
God, everyone's at
oh.
it. You know, don't pick up don't pick up those
Oh,
books. You're just gonna start, stick to Harry Potter or something. I don't know, but it's just, yeah,
yeah.
don't read anything about health. It's just not
But
gonna
come
help.
to think of it, my mom and my grandma twitch, and they're both very anxious people too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I do think it is like part of your genetics, passed on down to you for sure.
yes, very
Yeah.
much. And I think that probably mental health and things like that. I can't say for sure, but I do think that there might be some evidence to suggest that your mental state can be passed down
Oh
onto
yeah,
you,
'cause the mind and the
and
body are connected. Eh? If your mind is
yeah,
constantly like in overdrive, it's only normal for your body to follow, I think.
of course,
Yeah.
of
So
course.
I think that makes sense. Um, so I have like some reassurance style question still. Do you mind or is that okay?
Of course,
Okay.
absolutely. Everything's fine.
Okay, so I have really specific questions. We covered
Yes,
that you have twitches all over. Now
yes, yes,
for the specific spots, you
yes,
mentioned your calves.
yes.
Are they going 24/7 still?
So the whole 24/7 thing. Uh, I don't know if my calves twitch while I'm asleep. So I don't know if we can accurately say that our muscles
Waking
twitch when
hours
this.
then.
But so no, well, no, it's because it's a very commonly used expression 24/7. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, they still go, and not at the breakneck speeds that they did at the beginning, where it was like bump, 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 bump. You could just
Yeah.
be like, you just couldn't keep up with it. But you're probably having a twitch every 20 seconds, 30 seconds,
Yeah,
which
okay.
is enough, right? So
Okay.
yeah, in short, yeah, absolutely.
And do you have any other spots that constantly twitch or that come like in hot spots often?
It's more that's really good question. So more now, I don't I don't think my upper body twitches quite as much as it used to. But then for me, it does correlate with anxiety. So if my anxiety is high, I'm going to start getting that twitchy finger. Um, and I am going to start getting the odd twitchy bicep or,
Yeah.
facial twitch. So um, I, st- I haven't had a hot spot for a little while, a twitch that lasts sort of 2 or 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then eventually fades away. But, I just felt a little pop actually in my eyebrow there.
Yeah,
So,
I've had one of those before. I don't know if they're going to see
yeah,
it on the tiny camera, but I have one here before, and I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, but yeah, anywhere can twitch. I had sort of twitch at the side of the nose, and
mm-hmm.
it came on after 12 years, and then
Yeah,
it lasted about 3 days and then stopped, and it's never come back again. It's
it's
really
so strange.
weird, isn't it? It's just
It's
like
so
how
strange.
bizarre, or like in the ear. So
Here,
um, plenty in the neck. Neck twitches. I don't like neck twitches because they
I
feel a
don't
bit
like them
weird.
either. They're like right here
Yeah,
and they stomp and I don't.
yeah. They're a little they're a little unsettling. I don't like them, but
Yeah,
they can come and go. Back twitches. Um, again, not quite as regularly now, but I did used to get quite a few twitches in my back. It was interesting. I did have some odd, and occasionally still do, but not very often. Um, and this is really random, yeah. But every like 6 months, and this was for a period of about 2 or 3 years, every 6 months or so, give or take a few months, um, I would get probably a spot patch that big, like a feeling, right? This is really random, of mild burning on my left
oh,
buttock.
it happens to me all the time.
Yeah,
It's so funny you would mention that. I get that on the
yeah,
side of my calf. It becomes like super warm for no reason.
yeah,
A
yeah.
patch.
So, and do you know what? I actually don't feel it. Like I haven't sort of put my hand on it randomly enough to sort of think. But it's like, oh, it does feel like, I haven't actually paid enough attention to sort of feel if it does feel warm. But it does
Mm,
feel like it's burning. And I remember when I had anxiety when I was really young, the back of my neck felt like it was burning as well. And I couldn't work it out. And the problem is, if you're reasonable, which, not many people can be when they're very health anxious. I mean, I
yeah.
could now can Google, why does the back of my neck feel like it's burning? But chances are it'll probably go anxiety or sunburn. And you'll go, oh, all right, then that's okay. But yeah, so some pretty, nowadays it's still, I would say it's still dominated, maybe like 65-35, the lower, but the
Yeah.
upper part is like, scalp twitches as well. Pretty much anywhere is game, but I do think the correlation between there very much is correlation between having lower anxiety and less twitching.
Of course.
And for me at the
What
moment, I'm just tired, working hard, but not overly stressed about too much.
Yeah. It also happens to me if I get sick. Let's say I get the flu, and then for two,
Yeah,
3 weeks afterwards, I'm popping all over. It's just like
yeah,
any
yeah,
stressor to my body will offset
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Your immune system's working hard. I fight to fight off the illness, I guess, and just that physical stress of the body fighting off an infection,
Exactly. And
probably
being
not
tired
not
and
being fatigued. You're going to be
Mhm.
tired, and also if you're lying in bed, you've got more time to think as well, and that's never going to
also
help.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
all
makes
those
sense.
things are, if you're on the go and you're fit and well and you're working and stuff. I mean, my job, I'm on my feet all day, so I've done my 10,000 steps today, which is great. Actually, 7.14 kilometers. So, I've literally been up from 6 a.m. this morning, and I've been walking to get the underground, and then walking to my work, and then being on my feet all day, and then walking back home. So you don't really notice it, and then usually by the time I go to sleep, it's like if I feel a twitch, I don't care now, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, because now you're used to it. But I mean, I feel that when I'm walking a lot or after a workout, if I sit down afterwards, my legs are popping like
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely crazily. It's insane. But I guess
Yeah,
it's
and
so
that
normal.
it certainly is. And when I go to the gym, which hasn't been for a while, I tend to work out at home now, just because I'm just not getting the time to go to the gym, and I'm mindful that I'm getting older, so I want to preserve my strength and be healthier. But certainly when I was doing things like leg press in the gym, I just tend to do squats with a kettlebell at home now, so it's not. I don't sit there and look at my calves, but if I did a leg press, yeah, and I'm doing that for 20 minutes, then I look at my calves, they're just like, because
Yeah.
they've just been used, yeah, giving you a little wave.
I know the feeling all too well. And I know how freaky it could be at first, but like I'm just hoping this video is going to show people that after a while we could just laugh about it, you know? It's not that scary anymore.
Absolutely, and people will also see that there are commonalities in our
Yeah.
symptoms, and what we're saying to each other, rebounds kind of back and forth, and
Hmm.
there's no big surprises in our conversation. When I
Yeah.
said, I have a eyebrow twitch, or I get a facial twitch, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, it's really embarrassing, and it's I think sometimes there can be a little bit of comfort in that, especially if you're a bit newer. But I think it's important to, again, very much stress not to go on to, listen to the doctors, listen to the neurologists. I think if you're nervous, this is one thing I would add, and this is something that I did repeat over and over again in my videos, is that, and I still stick to this, that it's so important to avoid things like BFS forums, groups, things like that. I did that for a bit, and I did that to kind of draw people away actually into looking at my YouTube, so they could actually get first-hand information that wasn't kind of cloudy
Fear
and in
mongering.
very yeah. And you'd look at all these BFS groups, and like it would be twitching mouth, anyone else, question mark. And it's like, all right, someone else can answer the question, go, yeah, I got twitchy mouth. And then, but the problem is, it will alleviate your anxiety for like 10 minutes, and you'd be like, oh yeah, Joe's got
And
twitchy
and then the
mouth too.
next
And
twitch will come along.
yeah, and then
And then
you'll
you have
post
to
on
try
the boards, and
again.
you'll,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it
Sorry.
ultimately sort of, yeah, no, you're right. Ultimately, peace comes from within eventually, and it will
Mhm.
only come when you're happy with yourself, and you've reached that level of acceptance that you know that you're okay. And eventually, what will be will be. You just have to, life's always a gamble, and there's always going to be variables. But if you're listening to a
Mm.
professional and they're very skilled in their field, and they, and then and if you're like me, you sought multiple professionals, and they all conducted the same tests, and they
Exactly.
all gave you the same answer. You've got to believe them. It's like taking your car to a mechanic, and they go, you know there's a problem with your gearbox, and you're like, not sure I believe that. They're a really reputable mechanic. So you go, all right, I'll take it to the mechanic down the road. And they go, yeah, just checked. You got a problem with the gearbox. And then the third one, you check, they're like, yeah, no, it's a problem with the gearbox. At what point are you going to start to believe, the chances are you'd probably believe the first mechanic who told you that your gearbox was faulty. But for some reason, when it comes to our own health and well-being, we're very reluctant to receive reassurance from someone who is usually eminently qualified and certainly, way over and above what the average Joe would know on a forum as well. So, I say
100%.
that's quite a relevant bit of information there.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of tests and seeing doctors, you've had EMGs, you said? Multiple
Five.
ones, right? Five. Wow. Wow. More than
Yeah.
me. Did you have an MRI?
Yes.
Oh, did you have the whole
Had
blood work and everything? Yeah, you did the whole shebang, eh?
Oh, they really effed me up. Yeah, everything. And the problem was, my doctor kept saying to me, the more you poke around, the more they'll, eventually at some point in your life, they'll find something that will like really be annoying to you.
Yeah,
And it might be like, oh, you've got, like 5 years ago, I damaged some cartilage in my knee because I was running too hard. But you know what? If that come when I was really anxious and they'd have gone all thinning cartilage in my left knee, um, I'd have been, oh God, this is something related to this, and it's really bad. So he was right, but of course, I had a whole barrage of tests: X-ray, MRI, CAT scans, um, EMGs, private neurologists, blood work done, speech and language therapist, psychiatrist. Um, the list was absolutely endless, and you just look at it, and you're like, what drugs was this guy on? That you could somebody would be very easily fooled into thinking, like you said, how committed to the cause of chasing, appointments and chasing a diagnosis was I, because it was
yeah.
like a full-time job that completely overtakes your life, where you're like, okay, I've got the answer from one person, I'm reassured. And that's why in a lot of literature, they do say that health anxiety is very difficult to cure. I mean, I'm very much, I do endorse the fact that I think that health anxiety is a precursor to BFS
Mm.
or anxiety. And I think when I look back now and I think all these appointments I had, all the time I wasted, all the years of worrying and um, avoiding people or not doing something and not living for the moment, and letting my and this is all part of the process, I guess, really. And you how they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But just thinking, I got to the point where I was so down the rabbit hole that I had convinced myself, and I will never forget this. I convinced myself that I was so I was very much thought I was terminally ill. I very much believed that I couldn't walk, and my brain had gotten to the point where it was telling my body, you can't walk. And I would literally try and walk around the block and I would shuffle. My legs wouldn't even move. And if someone had offered me a wheelchair, I probably would have taken it. And so that's how dark and deep the brain can take you, to the
Yeah.
point where I was struggling to walk every day because I was like, I can't do this. Like, I
Convinced. You were
literally can't
convinced.
do it. Yeah, and the brain is just like completely can take you to, I mean, there's some things I won't even talk about because it's just like, you'll be like, wow, this is, and you don't want people to know too much because it might scare them. But I was like,
Yeah.
if your brain can take you to a place where you cannot, or it's made you get to this point where your body physically seizes up because it's just shutting down because it's like, I've got nowhere to go. This guy, like, is fighting a losing
Like,
battle of
we're done. We're
rationality.
done.
It's absolutely awful, and I'm
Yeah.
shuffling around the block, going like a robot, just and it had practically turned me into an amoeba. I couldn't think rationally. I couldn't perform um, any real functions. Work was out of the question. I was signed off work. Um, I was back and forth with the doctors and even psychiatrists, different medications. I was convinced that I couldn't eat or drink. I had to have psychiatric intervention as well because I was like, these people are thinking, "God, what are we going to do with this guy? Do we
Mhm.
do we put him in a do we put him in an asylum? Do we keep him at home? What do we do with him?" And I remember there was a very nice doctor, Dr. Lita, I think his name was, and he prescribed me some medication, which was escitalopram, Lexapro, I think it's called in the US or Canada. And he prescribed that to me, and I'd already been through the many medications, and all of them kind of pooped out after a while, and I'm still taking escitalopram because I think that for me it keeps me on an even keel. I think if I came off them, how would I be? Probably okay, but I'd probably still be prone to anxiety. Whether that
Mhm.
would be, whether that would dip back into health anxiety, I don't know because I think I'm quite pretty good and I'm stable and I'm rational in terms of certainly the twitching. But would I start thinking, oh man, I've got a brain tumor again? I don't know because I might be predisposed to it. So there is that fear, but I always do think that um, some people have mental illness, and I'm one of those people. And I
Me
very
too.
firmly, yeah, and I very firmly believe that medication is the right way for me. It might not be for everybody, but
No.
for me, I do think it was a lifesaver, and it certainly helped me get to a point that I managed to start rationalizing things a bit more clearly. And then I was able to start getting out and about again. And it's just those little tiny small steps that you can take. And then eventually you're back on your feet a little bit and starting to see
Mhm.
see things a bit more for what they really are. So I'm eternally grateful. And these days now I just live for the day
Yeah.
because I think it's so important to be very mindful and go, do you know what? I'm not going to think about the past. It'd be very easy for me to go, well, or, which I did say earlier, all those years, being stressed and anxious and worrying. But you know what? That's a part of my life, and perhaps that's defined me to make me a stronger person that I am now.
Hmm.
And I'm stronger. I'm physically and mentally stronger than I've ever been, which is a real blessing from above or from me, a bit of both maybe. And now we like I say, live for the day, but look forward to the future without that fear that I had, which was crippling. Would be
Yeah.
the most
Yeah.
accurate word to describe it, really.
Hmm. Wow. That's amazing. You actually answered my next question. So,
Oh, good. Oh, glad to
because
be
I
of
was going to
service.
ask you, how are you now? And, oh, well, I have another one. What makes it better besides, by the way, the SSRIs, for me too, it
Yeah,
was a godsend. I
yeah,
cannot say that I'm never anxious. I cannot say that I never have some health OCD, but it's like
of
much more
course.
subdued compared
Yeah,
to
of
before.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. Of course. I think now with Mia, it's not really quite so much my twitching. So I think, for example, like one of my ailments is that I tend to get ear infections quite regularly, which the doctors can't really do anything about. So this is a legitimate, physical ailment that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tend to get. And sometimes it spreads, and then I get a toothache, and I'm like, "Oh Christ, is this toothache or not?" And then I'm like, I call the dentist, and I'm like, I think I need, I've got a toothache. And then I start using my ear spray because I'm like, well, it's got to be my ear. And then I'm like, oh, I don't know, should I go to the dentist or? So sometimes I get this little kind of anxiety, but they are much more over legitimate concerns because I don't. don't really want to have a toothache, but it's probably my ear, and I don't want to start Googling.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do think I think I still have the odd time where I might get a little bit down or a little. I don't majorly get depressed. I think that's a
Hmm.
very small part of it. But very so often I might have a day where I'm just like a little bit dysfunctional, where I think
Yeah.
when you get some time off and your body just goes, oh, have a rest.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
You
sure.
know, I'll spend a day in bed, which incidentally I think is actually probably quite good for you,
And I think
to
it's
have a
actually
day.
everyone does that, I think. I hope
You've
everyone has
got to
days
have
where,
you you've got to have a day in bed where you just
yeah,
sleep. That's what I
yeah,
do, and I don't want anyone to bother me in my
exactly.
older years. It's like I want to watch TV, and I only want to get up when I need the loo or I'm having something to eat or drink.
Exactly. I get
Uh,
those all the time. We can't be the only ones. It's not just us. That's for sure. It's not
of
just
course
us.
not. Of course not. It's all part of human nature. And it is about that balance, and it is about that being aware that you need to care for yourself and be kind
Yeah.
and you know be mindful of your mental health. I think one thing as well that you may relate to as well, that I think if you sometimes if you're starting to dip a little bit mentally, and I think when you're a bit more experienced, you're able to kind of just stop that a little bit before it kind of ripens and becomes something a little bit worse. And
Yeah.
for me, always just keeping busy and doing stuff and having things to look forward to, always very, very, very good. But I'm much better now at shaking off things. If there's a drama in life, I'm able to shake it off a lot more clearly. If I have a argument with somebody, I'm able to rationalize it much better. So things that I would normally hold on to a lot tighter. And this isn't related to health anxiety. This is just my own inner psyche, I guess. Really, I'm able to
Hmm.
deal with things a lot better, and I think that comes with age and experience. But it's that balance, looking after yourself, and you have to put yourself first. It's quite cliched, but if you can't look after yourself, you'll never be any good to anyone else. So
Exactly.
you always have to put yourself first,
I agree.
always.
Fully agree. Yeah. Well, you answered all my questions. Is there anything else you think we haven't covered or like any advice for people that you haven't gone over?
Well, I think, oh, Blaze, what are you doing? Sorry, the cat's just made an appearance. I don't know if I can get him on camera. Oh, I don't want to end the. There he is. Oh, he needs to lose a few pounds. Oh, Blaze. Oh, he's
Beautiful, just
very nice.
like this.
He's beautiful. Blaze is very clever. He can do tricks and high fives and all sorts. So, oh, Blaze, you're going to be on YouTube. He doesn't care. He's very, very clever, highly intelligent cat. We've trained him to do a few tricks, high
That's
fives, and
amazing.
things for treats. And but and he likes snuggling up at night, so he likes to be on the bed with you. But don't put your hand near his face, otherwise you will incur his wrath. So whether that's a bite or a bop,
Really?
but bless him, he's enjoying your biscuits there. Yeah. So anyways, so uh, yeah. So I think I think the sort of take home, certainly what I would give as a takeaway, takeaway mental food. Um, always listen to the professionals. And unfortunately, it's very difficult when you're in a very heightened state of mental emergency almost, which I certainly was in. Listen to the
Hmm.
professionals. Don't go on any forums. Seek as much advice as you can from professionals only, but don't chase appointments as well, because the more appointments you make or want to have, the more you'll want to keep doing it, because it just provides that relief. And then you go, you're all right. And then I called it like the roller coaster of anxiety, because you kind of get to the appointment, it's coming up, get really anxious, see the doctor, everything's good, and then you're fine, and then the anxiety. It is literally like a roller coaster. So
It is.
you've got you've got to find that inner peace and find that way to, listen, believe, and accept everything that a
Yeah.
professional tells you, because you're only going to prolong your own um, ordeal, shall we say. So
Absolutely.
avoid forums, avoid Google. I know it's
AI.
really hard.
Avoid
Yeah.
AI. A lot of people
Oh
are on
God,
AI
yeah. Well,
now, and
that's the
it's the
new
same
one. I mean,
thing.
that's the new one now. I mean, I haven't done a video, since AI has really come into the forefront. So God knows what you can do with AI. So, I
Hmm.
mean, I use AI for writing my Instagram posts and stuff, and doing the odd animated video of for the coffee shop. But yeah, just avoid as much technology, and it's probably a really great time to get back to nature. We're neglecting each other, really. We're not talking to each other face to face enough. We're glued to
Hmm.
our screens. We're hardwiring our brains into a different place. So,
Yeah.
and another thing also as well is, um, I've spoken to many people in the past, and it's quite interesting that many people feel like they're going through it alone, and partners very more often than not do struggle, especially when you're super anxious. I mean, I was lucky that I never really went through a scenario where I had a long-term partner at the time where I was like super anxious. But I spoke to many people whose relationships were on the verge of failing because
Oh.
their partners were just like couldn't they weren't in that headspace, and it's very difficult to understand what someone's going through when they're at the level I was at. I don't know how many people have been to that level of anxiety. I hope not many, but yeah. So need to have a strong network of friends, and use them wisely as well. Really.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And speaking of having a network, do you still offer those like one-on-ones or like group
Well,
sessions?
I kind of, I think if someone wants to reach out, I will do. I am still happy to do that.
Hmm.
I think now I'm super busy, and I've got so much going on. And
Yeah.
um, when it came to the channel, which is much more a blogging channel now, I just post videos of my holidays or a bit of urban exploring or ghost hunting, things I like doing. Um, I think that I certainly gave as much as I could for the channel, and it gets to the point where you probably run out of things to say, or
Yeah.
it was probably my time just to kind of stop. But I'd still do the occasional one. I did, 15 years of BFS, and that was fairly recently. So yeah, I'm more than happy to speak to people. I just think that you know you're probably going to get as much bang for your buck now if you want to watch my videos or your videos, or somebody that's been through it. I don't know how much more mileage you can get. I'm very
Hmm.
happy to speak with people. I think more often than not, actually it was probably 50-50. People that I did speak to, some were exceptionally rational and were able to um ingest that information, and the aftercare, speaking with them again, generally they got themselves on a better track. And
Hmm.
some people progressed much better than others. There was one particular person that just couldn't get to grips with
Yeah.
it, and was like me, in that state of absolute panic. And actually she sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. But my last correspondence with her, she was in that place where she was like, I've definitely got this. I've
Oh,
spoken, I've had the most prominent, neurologists. I've spent thousands of pounds, but they're all wrong, and if I had a penny
yeah.
for every, pound or a buck, or for everyone that said that, they're wrong. That I know that there's something wrong. Um,
Hmm.
you're kind of like, at this point, I'm
There's not
telling
much
you,
you can do.
it happened to me. Yeah. So sometimes people just have to go through that process. And it's a really shitty process to go through. It's not nice. And it's horrible. And some of it was like my worst, darkest nightmares. But yeah, you've got to go through the dark, I guess, to get to the light. So it's
Yeah.
hard. But yeah, just you have to get through it in any way you can. But there are definitely a lot easier routes to go down, as opposed to like doing the no-nos, like the Googling and the forums and you
Yeah, and
know
that doesn't help anyone.
and
For sure
no.
doesn't help anyone.
But that's certainly been my experience, and for me, I really learned the hard way because you're not, when you've got a screen in front of you and you're just Googling all this information,
Yeah.
you're going to go down a very slippery path very, very quickly. So you've got to
Yeah.
listen to those professionals 100%. And I'm sure you did the same.
Agreed. Yeah, well, I did the same. I did that, and I also, when you were giving like those group chats, I don't know if you remember, you and I, we spoke with,
Yeah,
I think two other
yeah,
people. I had been twitching for like 6 months, I think, but I remember you trying to tell us to stop seeking reassurance and to start having faith in our own body and like to train to see our muscle growing and
yeah,
everything. And that really,
absolutely.
and it veered me in the right path because I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
start,
good,
trusting myself again. And I got to a good place in the next 6 months after that. It wasn't perfect, but it was
great.
much better than the
No,
beginning.
well, that
Thank
was
you for
another
that.
valid. No, you're welcome. And I forgot to say that. Train those muscles. Because
Yes.
what
Yeah.
more, if you're, cutting to the chase, if you're worried about something like ALS or
Hmm.
anything neurodegenerative, the minute you start lifting some weights, and I've got a 20-kilo kettlebell and I'm lifting it up. And you know what? The great thing is I'm 49 now, and my has remained the same. Like
Yeah.
it's like I don't even train as much as I should at the moment. I'm really trying to get back into it. But that's all been built up over those years that I had
Hmm.
the worst of
BFS.
the
Yeah.
BFS. And I'm like, I'm gonna train. And the more I saw these muscles building and growing, the more I was like, well, if you can lift all this weight and your muscles are growing, there can't be anything wrong with you. But if you sit
Yeah.
there and you're doing nothing and you're actually being just you're lounging around, your muscles are going to weaken, and
Hmm.
they're not going to be as firm. And
Yeah.
a sedentary lifestyle is, and I've got a bit of weight to lose as well, so I'm even more keen to bolster myself up a little
It
bit. So
helps. It helps your muscles for sure, and it helps you build muscle, which gives you confidence, but it also helps your psyche. Like
it
working out
does.
and everything gives you so many like benefits mentally that it's just a win-win situation, right?
Absolutely. And when I
Mm.
when I lift up some weights and I do a bit of exercise or I do a brisk walk or a little run or whatever, straight after that I feel productive and I feel like my brain is actually alive. I want to do some things. And I'm like,
Hmm.
God, I need to do this more often. And like I didn't work out tonight because not because of our chat, but because I thought actually I've done a few days now of doing some kettlebell routines and squats
Hmm.
and things very gently getting back into it because I've had quite actually a fairly sedentary period of not doing enough gym style exercising, and so tomorrow I've bookmarked that for tomorrow to work out again, and day three of actually starting to get back into that, and I'm starting to feel better in myself already. So yeah, you're 100% right. Absolute
Good.
win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've covered it. Thanks for answering all my questions and for being very patient before we started this
Oh
with my
no,
little technical
absolutely,
problems.
absolutely no problem at all. All I hope is that the recording is comes out well, and that it, it's good
It's still
and
recording, so it should be good.
good. Yeah, I mean, just imagine if it didn't record, how awful. But we'll do it again another day. But there's been a lot of lovely, loving energy gone into this, and I think that yeah, I'm happy that that I've helped make a difference. You're helping people make a difference, and that I hope people watch the video and they listen
Also,
to
too,
what
and
you've
for
got to
them,
say.
not even for me. I mean, I don't have that many subscribers, anyways. But the people who are like you and I, and that are new to this, and they find this, and they're like, "Oh, like I don't know how long has it been? Probably like an hour now, like an hour long chat of like we're just like you and we're all the
Yeah,
same and we're fine, you know? So I'm hoping
yeah,
it's going to help people. So
I think
anyway,
so.
yeah.
Well, hopefully the comments will be positive, and you know what?
Mhm.
Even if it helps one person, then you know that's one
Exactly.
more than would have happened if we hadn't have done the video. So you know, well done for thinking of the channel and stuff. And or did I think of doing a Zoom call? Maybe it was me that thought of this. I don't know. I can't
The
remember. I
Zoom,
don't want to take
I
credit
think
for
it was
everything.
you. The Zoom was
No,
you.
no,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be me. But it was a great, no, it's a great team effort. It was you for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been a real pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too. It was good to see you.
Well, Chloe, thank you so much for asking me some questions. Usually, it's me that's doing all the talking, but you know, asking. But you know, it's nice to answer some questions like from someone else doing a YouTube
Yeah.
channel. So I feel like I've been your guest, and it's been a real
You
pleasure.
were. You were.
And um, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Chloe.
I think I need to stop recording. Hold on. Okay, stop.
That's all right. No, no problem.